with their friends or whatever.
And then the real life, they talk to anybody.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have kids. Yeah, you guys would know more than me about isolation and how that.
I mean, I think the rules should still stand. Don't talk to strangers on the internet. Just stop it.
So, anyways, we were going to talk a little bit about some of the business ideas that we had. And I was trying to think what the very, very first business idea was that I had. And it was with a friend that I knew. And we were going to make a cookie shop. And the smallest cookie was going to be a bite. And then you'd have like a giant cookie that was a megabyte. And, and then we would have these cookies, and then it'd be like a gigabyte. And then the terabyte. It was like funny. The coolest idea. It was during just a few years after. It was like 2008. So this is probably like, I don't know, when was the .com bubble burst? So it was about 2010 when we were thinking about it.
The .com bubble was way
before that, right? So I mean, that was
the 1990s.
It was like 2000 or something. Or
yeah, right.
2000, and so 2001.
By about 2010, computer stuff was slowly starting to not be as nerdy, if I remember right. Like,
oh yeah, it was more mainstream.
A little bit, yeah. And so we were going to make this cookie shop with all these like different sized cookies and kind of have like a techie spin on it. And yeah, we never did anything, but I think that was my first like business idea. Do you guys have, what was yours, Drew, that you can remember?
Well, it all started when I was a kid, and I couldn't have a job. And so it was like, I was like, how do I make money? And it's like, goat heads, those things, those little flat plants that have these thorns.
Yep.
And my dad was like,
little horns on them.
And thistles, those spiky plants.
Yeah.
My dad would say a nickel for a goat head and like 25 cents for a thistle. And so I'd be digging those up all day. And so anyway, so my first like real business that I got into was my uncles. When they were kids, they had a lawn care business, and they went off to college, and I was about 12 years old at the time. And then they were like, we have 4 or 5 lawns and they're going to college. Oh, do you want them? And I was like, of course I want them. And I'm sitting around with my parents, right? And then my dad's like, what do you mean? You're going to mow lawns? How are you going to get to these lawns and all this kind of stuff?
I'm going to drive your big old diesel truck everywhere.
Yeah. And so my mom was like, I'll drive you around. And my dad was like, oh, you're crazy. And then sure enough, she drove me till I was 16. And I started a business that way. And I remember distinctly my very first time mowing. And here I'm like a 12-year-old, right? I spent probably 2.5 hours on this lawn while my dad pointed at every possible nook and cranny of everything to make sure I did it perfectly right, And so going forward, I used that as the standard of like, I don't cut corners, literally with lawns. And then, to really...
No, wait. You would cut the corners.
Or don't miss the corners.
Oh, sorry. Continue.
So be sure to cut the corners. Yeah. So, yeah, I use that as it's a totally different perspective when you work for yourself versus if you work for someone else. If you work 100%. At McDonald's or any, I wouldn't say professional world so much because you kind of have ownership of what you're doing. But if you're working for somewhere that's paying you the minimum possible to do the most amount of work, you're trying to find ways to do as little as possible, right?
Yep.
And when your name and reputation is on the line in a small business, like mowing lawns, you want to make sure you're the guy that they tell their friends about, that, hey, this person does it right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was the first small business that I got myself into that worked.
Let me ask you this. After you were started, did you have like a like years into it? Because I know you did it for years, every summer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you, like, a few years into it, did you ever feel like, am I doing this well enough? Did you feel like you were cheating them? How do I say this? Like imposter syndrome? Like, I'm making way too much money and I'm not really doing that much Did that make sense? Like, did you ever have that feeling?
Sort of. So now this is a good point because this goes into sales, and what you pay for something is sort of the perspective of what the customer thinks it's worth.
Yeah.
Right. So I would mow huge lawns and get paid really low, and mow tiny lawns and get paid a ton. And so while I'm working at one lawn that's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm even doing this for nothing, basically. The other one I'd make up for it.
Yeah. Interesting.
And so yeah, and how can I say? I wanted to keep them because having so this is another interesting thing. So having repeat customers in the long term, even if they're not really profitable, that pay off in the long time. So the consistency is a big deal. So kind of hold on to those customers, I would say.
Yeah.